welcome to Brewsers, a podcast about beer, coffee, booze, and bruisers. I'm your host, Rody John, and today we talk to Nixi XS. We talk all about her discovery of pro wrestling, her inspirations, and so much more. Nixi XS is a great up-and-coming wrestler in the United States, and she is definitely going to be taking over the entire country and maybe even internationally very soon. So definitely make sure to check her out. We will get to her in a second, but first, make sure to sign up for our newsletter. It comes out twice a week. You get even more information about our guests. You get fun facts, and you get to find out what's happening with your favorite podcast, all about beer, coffee, booze, and bruisers. So without further ado, here is Nixi XS. I would like to welcome the Versace of Violence, Nixi XS. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing all right. How are you?
I'm well. So for those listening, kind of paint us a word picture. Where are you at? What's going on around you?
I am a professional wrestler from St. Louis, Missouri. Um, I'm more fashionable than you. I'm more successful than you. I'm traveling all over the world, and I'm doing great right now.
That's amazing. I love that. So let's go all the way back in time. What is your earliest memory of pro wrestling?
Um, I think I was probably 6 or 7. My brother and my stepdad were very into wrestling, so like Raw was kind of always on TV on Mondays. And I just remember watching the girls and being like, oh my God, they're so pretty. And then being like, why isn't this the whole show? Why do we have to look at John Cena? Let's look at Kelly Kelly. She's way cuter. And
I mean, maybe both of
from
them
there,
together.
yeah, from there, I just started watching it and I gained more of an appreciation. But, the glitter is what pulled me in.
So, speaking of which, I mean, you kind of grew up with the Divas title. Where do you think when they kind of didn't make that different than the men's title? It was just here's the women's title and no longer a Divas title.
Um, I don't mind like the name change to the women's championship. I think it's really lame that it looks exactly like the men's one,
Mm-hmm.
except for a different strap color. Like, let's make it something unique so it actually honors like the history of women's wrestling and
Right.
all the women that are part of this lineage instead of just copy and pasting what the guys had.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's kind of it's lame, you know? Let the girls have something special.
No, it's true.
Uh
I mean, plus
yeah.
replica, like merchandise wise, why would you not have something different than the men's? So that way the women can be like, yeah, we got this awesome belt.
Yeah, exactly. Like the women's tag team titles are some of my favorite belts out there right now. And that's because they're unique. They're different than the guys' ones. I just wish they did that for the main title too.
True. Yeah, I mean, even Rhea's is basically just a copy and paste of the men's, but it looks cooler on her, I guess. I didn't like her with the regular old belt, like especially when she was NXT. I was like, can we not get her a better belt than this?
Yeah, yeah. She looks great with the current one though.
True. Now, where did the fandom become I think I can do this? Like, where did that kind of leap happen for you?
Um, it was around like 2018, um, around the time that they started having longer women's matches on the main card,
Mm,
and Becky Lynch was like popping off, and there was a ton of frenzy around that, and they had that all women's pay-per-view, Evolution,
hmm
and the Mae Young Classic was happening at that time. And I just remember consuming all of this women's wrestling content and being so excited by all of these women and how cool they are and all the cool stuff that they're doing. And I was like finishing up high school and I was like, that's something I can try. That's something I can do. Like, I'd make a cute wrestler. And that was kind of the seed.
I love that. When did you find out that there was other wrestling out there besides WWE?
Um, I mean, I always knew about like TNA, like that
Mhm.
kind of stuff. Occasionally you'd come across like a Ring of Honor show airing at like 1 a.m. on a random channel. I knew about like lucha stuff, like I would see that on random channels like AAA. So I knew that there was a world beyond WWE wrestling. I didn't really jump into that until kind of around that same time, like 2017, 2018, when I kind of became aware of like Japanese wrestling
Mm.
and oh, there's also independent wrestling that's not even broadcast on any of these, channels. And, there's so much out there. That's kind of when I became active online, like looking up wrestling and seeking it out instead of just watching what was on.
Mhm.
Um, so around that time period, I didn't go to my first indie wrestling show in person until like a month before I started training
Oh,
because
yeah,
I felt like I couldn't start training until I had been to an indie show.
that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to ask when was your first indie show because those are a completely different animal.
Yeah, it was a St. Louis Anarchy show in, I believe, December of 2018. It was snowing out. It was like a blizzard. Um, but the show went on, and I think I was one of like maybe 40 people that actually decided to go, even though it was snowing out. Um, but it was a great show and it was really fun. And then I started training a couple weeks later.
Now, going from obviously training and then going to your first match, what was your what was tell I guess walk us through that process. What was the nerves like? Where were you at mentally? Like, how many people were there? Because I imagine you probably counted everybody that was there.
Yeah, so my training history experience was not like a quick, easy, like linear story. A lot of people, they get into training, they train for like 6 months, and then they start having their first matches, and their first matches are usually on student shows, and then it goes from there. I started training in January of 2019. I didn't
Oh,
debut until the very beginning of 2023. Um, a lot of that was because one, the pandemic.
right,
Like I left completely during like 2020, 2021 because the world shut down.
right.
Nothing was happening. Everyone was kind of locked down. Um, I don't have a great immune system, so I was very careful about COVID and all of that. But also, the original school that I trained at closed. My original trainer was not a good person and, you know, very talented, but not a good person.
Mm,
And thankfully, they got kicked out of the scene, but that also meant I didn't really have anywhere to go to train. Um, so I left for a while. And then it was in 2022 when I started reaching out to people that I had known when I was training the first time and asking like, hey, what schools are running right now? Like, can I come train with you? And eventually I got in with Team Ambition, which then became the Forge. And I was cleared for my first match after training for 5 weeks there.
oh.
Uh, Very surprisingly, your body remembers a lot, even when you stop training for a long time. So that was kind of cool. Um, and then I had an injury and had to wait several more months, and I was very disappointed about that. And finally, 4 years after I started training, with a gap in the middle, I had my
Right.
first match. So I didn't have like a simple path to that first match. I was very nervous. Um, yeah, it's a first match is so unique, and I only know this in hindsight because I had practice matches in training, but I had never performed in front of a crowd. I had never like had those eyes on me. And you
Right.
don't realize until you're doing it how different it is. Um, so it's a totally different thing. That was a gunshot outside.
Uh-oh.
Hell yeah. St. Louis, everybody.
I
Um,
I've heard. I had my cousins used to live out there, and they no longer live out there.
yeah, it's a special
Yeah.
place. Um, so I didn't even know what to expect with my first match. I kind of just said, I've spent so long trying to get here. I'm just going to do it. And then I did it. And then afterwards, it was just, okay, I did it. Now I'm going to keep doing it. And over time, the nerves get less.
Right.
And then you go into a match and you're not even nervous. You're just like, I'm going to beat somebody up. I'm going to look cute. The crowd's going to, boo me, but I don't care.
Right.
And, you know, not that I don't still get excited about shows, but
Well, of course. Yeah,
it's about I get to focus on performing instead of just being nervous.
right. Yeah, you can go out there and kind of help perfect things as opposed to like, okay, I think I'm doing this right.
Yeah, for sure. I'm lucky that I had very solid like fundamentals when I had my first match. I trained with really great people um, at the Forge, and my first match was with was with Tootie Lynn, who I had been training with since the very beginning of my training, since like the first day in 2019. So I'm very familiar with her. That was a great introduction. That was a like really good first match for me to have. And now I've wrestled her at like 5 different promotions. Um, so it's fun to see how far you can get in just a year's time.
True. Now, when you're creating a character, creating, a move set, it kind of, I imagine, is always evolving, but who kind of inspires you when it does come to either some moves that you'd like to try or just character work in general?
So I personally, this is my philosophy. I never look to other wrestlers for inspiration.
Ah,
I never, I'll watch matches and, you know, study them and take things from the way a match is structured or the way that somebody, you know, moves or something like that. But in terms of like who I am and why I do the things that I do, I never look at other wrestlers because if another wrestler has done it, it's been done before. No one
ah,
needs to see that anymore. Somebody, if I'm seeing it, that means someone has done it and done it so well that they're on TV doing it or they're on a major show doing it. There's, they've already filled that void. So I look first of all, to myself. Who am I? What do I like? What am I interested in? What are my personality traits? What parts of myself do I not get to express in normal daily life, but can express when I'm in the ring? So I don't get to like be a bitch all the time, but now I get to be a bitch all the time because wrestling is an opportunity for me to let out all my annoyance at people. Like, that's genuine. Like, I bottle up like how annoyed I am by everybody. And then when I get to go out and wrestle and perform, I get to say it. And it's great.